thank you so much for joining me today. I am so very excited to have you here. I'm sure this looks familiar to you. Last time we were in the same spot, same clothes. We were going over 1-star reviews for my 5-star books. Today, we are going to be going over 5-star reviews for my 1-star books. Definitely not too much that needs to be said if I start saying some things, and I'll keep saying some things and keep talking. So we're just gonna go ahead and get into it. I'm gonna go ahead and get my Goodreads pulled up. I'll pull up some of my 1-star books that I just really did not like, and then go over some of the 5-star reviews that people gave for the book. I'm not gonna lie, I think this one's gonna be a little bit harder to do because it's just gonna be a lot of people that really love the book, and I don't really want to tear down your good opinion, anything like that. I think that I'm just gonna choose the books that I just really could not stand, and then that way I can see what people have to say that's good about the books that I didn't like. Because we probably need to bring some positivity. First one off the rip that I can think of that I just absolutely did not like was Throttled, so we'll probably start there. I talk a lot about not liking that book, so we'll see. I know some people loved it. I know it's part of a big series, and usually books like that, people will say, oh, I didn't like this one, but it just doesn't really matter because it's part of like the greater scheme of things. On my way to ask my brother to become an F1 driver so I can travel the world with him and meet Noah Slade. BRB. I'm not gonna lie, I don't think that the main character in this book had any like really great qualities. I don't think that there was anything that we were getting from him that I was just absolutely obsessed with. He really just felt like this normal dude that I didn't care about at all. So I don't get the whole loving of the main characters. I didn't really care about their relationship at all. I think from what I remember, it just felt really fast and there wasn't really a big chemistry or anything like that. But what do I know? This book was so good. OMG, I never read a book about F1 drivers, but now I'm obsessed. You all 100% need to give this book a read. Reread, just as good as when I first read it. In love with all the characters. Look, I didn't like any of the characters. There wasn't a single character that I was into. I don't think any of the characters had anything notable going on with them. There wasn't like any qualities that I felt like they had that really just drew me to them. Like I said, I just really didn't care about them, and I think it just moved really fast. I know that I didn't care enough to not read any of the other books. I didn't like any of the other people there, so like even me going into the next books was just not gonna happen. Forbidden romance, brothers, teammates, rival, one of the rich and famous traveling the world, Formula One, say less, I'm sold. Actually, looking at these reviews is making me remember the fact that it was like a forbidden romance, and the forbidden aspect behind it was just, oh, he's my brother's rival, and I can't do that. That's terrible. To me, it was just like a sport rivalry. It wasn't like they actually just hated each other's guts and would never become friends. It was obviously very much just one of those things that once it happened, it was just gonna be fine and they would get over it. But the way that the characters made it seem was like it was the end of the world and their lives were never gonna be the same and it was just gonna be the massive thing. Like he was gonna disown her from the family, and I just didn't see it like that. It just felt like they were blowing that way out of proportion and it didn't actually matter. And I think that that really got on my nerves. I think the amount of times that they said that and talked about it just irritated the crap out of me. I cannot believe I put this series off for so long. Noah and Maya started this series off with a bang, quite literally. I instantly fell in love with them and their dynamic. They did start that off with quite a bang. Again, if I'm not mistaken, I do feel like it was very insta-lovey, and I do feel like they were banging a lot. I think that that was just kind of a thing that they were sneaking off and doing. I feel like, looking back at it, I think in my head at the time of reading it, I was kind of confused as to why it was already so spicy, because it just didn't feel like they were connected at all to even move forward with that. I could be so wrong though. Again, I haven't read it in forever and I don't remember it hardly at all, but yeah, I'm not a fan of this book. Holy crap, finally a slow burn that was written correctly. I was getting sick of 400 pages of slow burn, then one chapter of confessing feelings with a wedding epilogue. Noah is such a dream man, oh my. He is so sweet, plot was good, smut was great. We'll definitely be finishing the series. I don't view slow burn as falling for each other and then like going for it but keeping the relationship a secret. Again, this could be so off. To my recollection, that's kind of what happened. I feel like they were into each other, they instantly hit it off, they instantly were into each other, and then started sneaking off behind everybody's back and then pretending like nothing was going on, even though it was. Which I wouldn't say that that's slow burn at all. I don't remember, of course, but I feel like that's the way that it went, at least in my head. When I think of a slow burn, I want a 400 page of like we're feeling both the characters' feelings, they're into each other, and whether or not they're unable to pursue things or what the hang up is, just keeping on with those same feelings, and then all of a sudden at the end they're like, oh yeah, we do want to pursue this, with very little at the end. And I agree with you there. I do not like a big wedding epilogue, or I don't like when they have an epilogue just to put another spice scene in it. That drives me nuts. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know about the slow burnness of that one. I'm not gonna go reread it again to try to figure that one out, but I don't remember it being slow burn at all. Okay, so this review said it was at 4 stars and then 5 spice. Again, just remembering it, I feel like it was pretty spicy for what it was. I felt like it was a decently short book with a lot of smut in it and just not a lot of fillings. I don't know, I guess that kind of helps me with not remembering, but like feeling like I am justified for saying that it was a little bit spicy. Of course, everybody has different ratings, though. I think I'm gonna move on to the next one. I think a lot of people have serious strong feelings about this one. Obviously, I have strong feelings about it in the complete opposite way. I'm definitely not trying to say anybody else's opinion on this is wrong. Of course, my opinions are not right in the same way that nobody else's opinions are right. Just what I think. Another book that instantaneously comes to mind whenever I think about 1 star is Shark Heart. So we're gonna see what people have to say about that one. I think that's gonna be one that a lot of people get more meaning from than I did. I did not like that one at all. Down to I didn't like the narrators and the way that the narrators spoke and the way that they said, that book was a whole nother level. I had to pull up the audio so that I could show it to Nick and tell him how ridiculous it was that I was listening to it, and just how they were speaking. I've never experienced anything like that a day in my life. This actually has really surprisingly high ratings. It has 3.94, which I feel like is pretty decent. I devoured Shark Heart in less than 2 days. It's compulsively readable, wholly original, and filled with every form of love. I promise it will keep you guessing as it did me. Shark Heart brings all the emotion. I know this one sounds far-fetched in premise, but sometimes it pays to go outside the lines, and in this case, it absolutely did. For the most part, pretty much agree with this. Again, I listened to it on audiobook, so for me, I don't think I really got anything out of readability for it. I wasn't hooked on it. I wasn't just eager to keep going. So there's that. Also, again, I was not liking the audiobook at all, so I definitely did have a hard time wanting to push play in the mornings, getting that one going. But wholly original, yes. Filled with every form of love. I think, kind of. I don't know about every form, but I know that like the guy was turning into a shark and his spouse was still loving him, you know, whatever. They were still trying to savor the time that they had before he completely turned into a shark. I'm sorry, it's not funny, but it's kind of funny. Shark Heart brings all the emotion. The only emotion that I was getting out of this was just confusion, irritation, and just hatred. I didn't hate the book. Again, it was that audiobook. Oh my gosh. Something about the audiobook. I'm not trying to make fun. I really am not, but it was so weird. I feel like it was a dude narrating most of it, if not all of it. The way that he narrated some of the other girl parts, I said my piece on that. I'm not gonna say anything else. It was weird. It was really weird. Far-fetched in premise, absolutely. It is far-fetched. Again, pulling this one up, I knew it was gonna be something that you have to read more into than what I did. I don't really care for having to read between the lines for stuff. I don't want to have to put a lot of thought into it afterwards. I don't really want to have these like deep underlying meanings that I don't understand, because it just makes me feel dumb. Maybe a reason for that feeling. But it was weird, and I didn't really have any type of connection to it. The audiobook turned me off from enjoying it, and I think sometimes when I'm listening to an audiobook that I don't enjoy, I don't really connect with it because I'm not enjoying listening to it at all. And I didn't have the physical book, and I didn't have it on my Kindle. Whatever the case was, I didn't really care about it, and I was really just listening to it so that way I did have an audiobook. Why I didn't stop, I don't know. I guess I just kind of wanted to see it out. I don't think I'll ever shut up about this book. I accidentally read it, meaning I picked it up and scanned the first 2 pages, ended up reading it in less than 24 hours, cried uncontrollably the entire time. It helped me through my own grief, my own fears, my own existential dread. I quite literally just finished, so I'm having a hard time piecing together words. Please read this book, grab a box of tissues and a glass of wine first though. And then someone commented again, I have never cried so hard about a book, and every time I tell people about the synopsis they don't understand why. Trust and believe, people, and grab the tissues. I feel like it would have been sadder than I thought it was if I was connected to the characters. If I genuinely cared about them, I think that I would have been more saddened by the fact that he got this disease and was turning into a shark. But since I didn't care about the characters, I was really just reading it, listening to it to follow along with what was going on, and to see where a story like this could end up, see what a story like this could actually consist of. Not necessarily that I was enjoying it, I wasn't really enjoying the plot, I wasn't really exactly caring about anything in it. It was kind of an intriguing factor. It was really just, I'm curious as to what's going on, so I'm just gonna see it through, and less about me actually enjoying it. So that's kind of why I finished it. I don't think I would have cried at it. I think now, getting older, I do get more emotional over simple things, but for this one, I don't think that there's a world that I ever would have needed tissues. This book is weird AF and gorgeously written and will break your heart again and again and again, always before repairing it once more. I didn't think Shark Heart could possibly live up to the hype, but it did. And I hope it wins all the awards. Probably my favorite novel of 2023 thus far. Can't wait to see if it's topped. Again, I just didn't connect with it like that. I'm wondering if there's maybe not something that people are getting out of it just from their own experiences. Because obviously I did see one where somebody was talking about grief and it healed them, and I don't think that I've experienced loss like that in a point where I would connect anything real world with this book. So for me, I don't probably get as much out of it as other people could if I were to be in a situation like that. Maybe, especially if I was to like lose Nick to some traumatic form of passing, maybe I could get a lot more out of it. I could connect with it more on a deeper level, and I could be brought to tears, possibly, if I physically read it. Again, I think that the audiobook was a big reason why I didn't care for it as much as I did. I think in those circumstances and me physically reading it, I could see it being more enjoyable. 5 stars is simply not enough. I thought that 5 was plenty enough. I didn't even use the whole 5. I thought I was good with just my 1. Here I am crying over people who are slowly turning into wild animals. That's really funny. It is a really odd concept. Like, I will say, credit where credit's due, the idea behind that and coming up with that type of plot is so fascinating. I think if your brain works like that, you've got something going on, right? And I think that that's fantastic. I probably would never have any type of creativity like that, but I commend the people that do. I actually did not know that this was a debut novel. That's actually really interesting. Again, I'm not hating. I'm not saying it was really bad. I did not like it, but I think overall it wasn't like bad. Like objectively it wasn't bad, you know what I'm saying? I just thought it was. I didn't like it. Personally, my opinion was that I didn't like it. Alright, now I'm gonna have to actually thumb through some of my other books that I've rated 1 star because I don't really remember much of them. I know that those were the 2 that really stood out to me as being really awful and I really did not like them. We'll do this. I did read one horror book not too long ago that I really just didn't like at all. Spread Me. We'll see what good things people had to say about that one. This one is for the freaks. It's like The Thing, but 600% hornier. I don't even think that this book was, like, I wouldn't use that term to describe this book. Maybe the character in the book was, but I don't know. I don't imagine anybody reading this and being like, yeah, that's good. You know, I just... Anyways, yes, this is exactly the kind of weird stuff I need in my life. The suffocating factor of isolation intensifies every aspect of this horrifying and, strangely enough, erotica gem of a novella. Beyond this pure entertaining scope of analysis, this novella clearly explores the relationship of shame and sexual desire, which I found to be rather thought-provoking. I agree with it being a relationship between the 2. I don't think that there was much thought that was being provoked by me other than how in the world somebody would think about this and put 2 and 2 together and write a whole book based off of that. I thought that it was very strange. Of course, I'm not typically one that enjoys a lot of sexual content in my books. Again, I think that there's a point and a place. I think if it makes sense to the storyline and it's not just the storyline, I don't mind it. I don't know about the need for this being in the book. I guess if that's the underlying theme, that's actually what we are supposed to be exploring, it makes sense for there to be a book about it to kind of push the boundaries and push the idea behind that. A very, very odd though. I wouldn't say if you were talking about sexual desire and shame in that way, I would assume, or I would think that it would be in a more natural setting to where you can actually relate to it in a realistic way, but also maybe that's the point to it not being realistic. So I don't know. I really don't know. I guess maybe now it's a little bit more thought-provoking, but not enough where I'm gonna sit and harp on it at all. Sometimes when you're finally faced with your deepest, darkest desires, it can be simultaneously amazing and absolutely horrific. I like that little bit, that sometimes when you're faced with your deepest, darkest desires, it can be amazing and absolutely horrific. I mean, that's a really interesting point to make, I guess, or a way to sum it up, but I don't know. I still just think it was weird. 4.5 rounded up. This is a horror mixed with dark romance. Maybe this book's scary, spooky, and freaky nasty. I didn't read the blurb. I saw the cover and semi-read the title and said, horror, sign me up. Now, I knew this was kind of different when everyone got sick and Kenzie, you know, well, I'll say this was a different type of freaky, scary story. I have no idea how Gailey came up with a story like this, but my goodness, this is definitely for the nasties. The ending had my eyes wide. I actually don't remember the ending at all. I don't remember what it was. Maybe I do, maybe I don't, I don't know. I think it being stated as like a horror/dark romance, I think that makes a lot more sense. I think when looking up the idea behind dark romance, it wasn't necessarily just really spicy, really smutty, anything like that, which is what I would have assumed. I would have thought it's just more content in the book, but in looking it up, it actually said that it was more just exploring taboo topics and exploring themes that might be uncomfortable for some people. So in referring to it that way, I guess it kind of does make sense. Still interesting though. All right, let's see what else I've got in my 1 stars. I feel like there's not a lot of books that I ever end up rating a 1 star. I think usually I just give them about a 2 if I didn't really care for them. It's just if I really, really like strongly didn't like them, I'll give them a 1 star. Oh. Here we go. Here we go. Okay, so I have some spicier ones. Probably know why I gave it 1 star, but we'll pull up Credence by Penelope Douglas. I read dark romance books for a week, so I read 3 Penelope Douglas books, and these happen to be the ones that I read. So let's see what 5 stars people have given Credence. Listen, IDK if I'm literally effed in the head, but I loved this book. I devoured it. I think it's really fascinating to say that because there are some times that I enjoy books that I wonder if it makes me any type of way or people would think of me any differently if they knew that I enjoyed that book. I don't think personally that I read a lot of stuff that's super out of pocket. It would more just be like me reading a horror book that does have some weird things in it, like cannibalism. I don't agree with cannibalism. I don't think that that's anything that we need to be doing at all. I don't think that people should be eating people. But reading a book about it, knowing that it's fiction, I don't really mind enjoying it. But then at the same time, I'm like, does it say anything about me? Like, I don't know. And then I'm like, does it really matter? But then it's like, if you read something worse, like, I don't know. Like this, is it bad to read something about your uncle or step-uncle or whatever the case is and doing the things that happen in this book? Like, I don't know. I really don't know. I don't think that I like it. I don't think that I want to read it. I don't think that it's super, you know, positive. I don't think that that's a positive message to be spreading necessarily. But like, I don't know. Who am I to like yuck anybody's yum? I didn't like it. I wouldn't read anything like that again. I didn't get enjoyment out of it. But if some people do, then I do get feeling weird about yourself for enjoying things or enjoying certain books or whatever, or themes in books when it might be kind of taboo or it might be kind of weird. That's just this difference, I guess, between separating fact and fiction. That's like a whole can of worms. Like, if you actually want to dive deep into that like topic point, that's just a whole can of worms. And I'm like, I just don't know, because I see it from both sides. And I just don't know. I have been sitting here trying to figure out how to rate this book for quite some time. I came to the conclusion that I'm going to give it 5 stars. Does that mean that I agree with everything that went on with this book? Heck no. But that isn't why I read. I read to escape, to be entertained, to feel different emotions, whether it be good or bad. This book definitely did all that for me. I went into Credence knowing that there was forbidden aspects of the story and there was probably going to be content that pushed my limits. And yes, that happened for sure. I was still hooked on this one, and seeing as I read so much, I tend to find it hard to find books that I devour and can't stop thinking about. I got that also with this story, so 5 stars it is. I will say that this story is not for everyone. The readers that don't mind boundaries being crossed and having their emotional comfort levels pushed, then this would be a book that you still want to read. I thought Penelope Douglas did a wonderful job with her writing, and I was hooked on the story the whole way through. For myself, I'm glad I read this. I am choosing not to write a summary of the book or talk about the characters because I don't want to give anything away. There's so many wonderful reviews on Goodreads that made it clear the idea of what Credence is about. I do know one thing, I need to check out more of this author's work. She's caught my attention. So that's kind of what I was saying. I do agree with this in the sense of you're reading to escape. It's not real life. Like, this story is not real. And you can read things that push your comfortability. I just read Slewfoot, which absolutely completely pushed every comfortable boundary that I had on topics of religion. Every comfortable boundary that I have with, you know, talking about demonic stuff. That book for me is a really hard one to wrap my head around because I don't know my thoughts, I don't know my opinions, and I don't know how I feel about those boundaries being pushed in that way. So for me, I do agree with that. Yeah, like, if you're okay with that boundary being pushed, have at it. And you don't necessarily have to agree with what's happening. But it just, it's just such a hard topic for me to talk about because I don't really have a set in stone opinion necessarily because I do see it from both sides, and it's really hard. It's hard for me to come to like a complete conclusion on it and really just stick by that opinion. But yes, I would agree that there are some weird topics in this. There's some weird things that are going on, and it does kind of push the what you're comfortable with and what you are not comfortable with, and then also trying to figure out whether you're okay with enjoying a book like that or not. It just, I don't know. Definitely gets you thinking, I will say that for sure. I have to admit, as soon as I started reading this book, I immediately wanted to DNF it due to the book's weird relationship between the characters. But thankfully, I'm so glad I had a few people that pushed me to continue reading. Maybe I'm just an overthinker, but I think this book can correlate to the world and how we see it. In life, sometimes we are so distracted with the one big problem or issue that's going on that we lose sight of the opportunities to learn from it. I think Penelope Douglas did a great job in the beginning by creating an uncomfortable experience for the reader. By creating this taboo relationship, it weeded out the reader who wasn't open-minded enough to see the bigger picture, the bigger meaning behind her book. To the ones who persevered, not only saw each character go through their own stages of grievance, loss, and suffering, but most of all, healing. By holding on to the past, you're merely just blocking opportunities for change in your future, is the lesson I saw repeatedly in this book. In order to heal, you must first allow yourself to be uncomfortable. But again, maybe I'm just an overthinker and the book really isn't that deep, but you'll never know until you give it a read for yourself. I will be so honest, I did not get that at all. I don't really think that I got anything underlying out of it personally. If you liked it, good for you. I couldn't even begin to sit and try to come up with deeper meanings in that book. And the last book that I remember anything about that I gave a 1 star to was Good Elf Gone Wrong. This book, I talked about it a little bit in one of the other videos that I just made, talking about like a book series that I wouldn't continue. This book was so weird. First off, to say it was a 600-page romance book. No. I think that is a no, personally. Didn't like it. I don't think that the book was good at all. I think that it was one of those like weird, really weird romance books where following like the main character, she just got cheated on and she's trying to go through the holidays and pretend like she doesn't care. And her family really takes advantage of her. So I think she ends up getting this guy to fake date or something like that, that's trying to help her see that her family is taking advantage of her while they're doing the nasty all the time. Grandma Murray stole the show. There, I said it. She just did. Kindle Unlimited read, 500 pages, Grumpy Sunshine, fake dating, enemies to lovers. This is not a typical Christmas romance. Not cheesy or sappy. Well, not as sappy as some. This book has bite and twists, not normally in a romance. I really, really enjoyed it. I loved Gracie and eventually warmed to Hudson. I think he was the guy that she was fake dating. I don't remember any of the characters. I think I was annoyed with the girl character because I think she was just getting stepped all over and I just didn't care for that. That stuff's kind of annoying to read whenever they're not doing anything to help it. But at the same time, I do understand that in real life, you don't always see what's going on. It does sometimes take other people showing you because you can't always see it for yourself. I was hooked on this book from page 1. The characters are great. Gracie is the world's absolute biggest pushover. I've seen doormats with a bigger backbone. Hudson is, well, textbook bad boy dreamboat. There were so many times my mouth hung open over how her family treated her. I immediately signed up for the author's newsletter to get a sequel. Oh, also, 5 out of 5 stars and 5 out of 5 spice. Much hot, very schmexy. I do agree. I think there were doormats with bigger backbone. She, like, that was one of those things that was really, really irritating me. She just was such a pushover and was doing nothing to stop it and just didn't see that. It is what it is. Obviously, it's just a book. I don't really care, but yeah, and very spicy. It was very spicy, and almost 600 pages of that. Slow burn, but great story. I loved it, loved the characters, the grandmas, the brothers, all of it. I'll be the first to admit I was waiting for the spicy stuff, and it was good when it got there too, lol. I don't remember if it was a slow burn. I don't remember the characters taking a long time to get together or anything like that. I just thought that the whole entire book was really spicy. It was even, like, I think the first line, starting off the first line was like, oh crap, like what am I getting myself into? So very a lot. There's very a lot of that. But I think that's going to conclude all of our 5-star reviews. I think a lot of people have great things to say about books that I just did not like, and that's absolutely fabulous. I'm so glad that other people find enjoyment from books that I did not care about. I'm glad other people found deeper meanings, deeper connections that they can, you know, have with the books. I think that's fabulous. I didn't have them. Again, I'm not trying to knock anybody for liking anything like this. Hey, that's great. If you like it, like it. I'm glad that somebody else is able to like it, because I don't. But again, I don't think that I would say that any of these books were bad. There's not anything in me that's like, oh yeah, I read this and the book itself was actually just terrible. It's just my opinion. I would not say any of these were bad books. I would just say that I simply didn't like it. My opinion is that I didn't care for them. Not that they were terrible, not that the author did something wrong, anything like that. Just my 2 cents, I didn't care for them. I wasn't the person that should have been reading them, and that's okay. But let me know if any of these books that I rated 1 star, you also rated 1 star, or if you're like the reviews that we read and you gave them 5 stars and I just don't understand it. But as always, I greatly appreciate you for being here. Thank you so much for hanging out with me on this wonderful day, and I hopefully will get to see you in the next one tomorrow. See ya!